Inside the billion-dollar money laundering empire, the headlines exploded across the world. Billions of dollars had vanished into thin air. Money meant to build schools, hospitals, and roads for the people had instead been hidden in secret accounts, spent on luxury mansions, private jets, and even Hollywood movies. Reporters shouted, politicians scrambled, and investigators shook their heads in disbelief. This was no small theft. It was the exposure of a billion-dollar money laundering empire, a crime so huge it shocked governments, banks, and ordinary citizens alike. The most shocking detail? Some of the world's most powerful banks had played a part in moving this dirty money. Accounts were filled, drained, and filled again. Shell companies popped up overnight, as if by magic, disguising the true owners. Even the FBI admitted they had never seen anything so wide, so deep, and so bold. But how did it begin? Who built such a vast criminal machine? And how had it gone unnoticed for so long? The answers lay years earlier, in quiet boardrooms and glittering parties, where money flowed like water and no one asked too many questions. It began with promises of greatness. Leaders spoke of development, growth, and opportunities. A fund was created, one that was supposed to invest in energy, technology, and infrastructure for the good of the people. At first, it looked like a brilliant idea. Billions of dollars poured in. On paper, the numbers shine like gold, but behind the polished reports, a different story was unfolding. Secret meetings were held in luxury hotels. Contracts were signed with inflated prices, sometimes double or triple the real cost. Extra money was quietly siphoned away, moved into secret accounts in Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, or Panama. From there, the trail split into dozens of directions, disappearing into layers of companies that existed only on paper. The lows came in the silence. Ordinary people had no clue what was happening. They saw new projects announced. They heard promises on the news, and they believed progress was coming. Yet the road stayed broken, the hospitals stayed crowded, and the money was gone. The highs came for those who ran the empire. Suddenly, their lives looked like scenes from movies. Multi-million-dollar mansions in Beverly Hills, a private jet parked at a New Jersey airport, lavish shopping sprees in New York, London, and Paris. One of them even funded a major Hollywood blockbuster, smiling proudly on red carpets while hiding the truth about where the money came from. It seemed unstoppable, but greed always leaves traces. And in this empire, the cracks began to show. Bankers noticed transfers that didn't make sense. Small companies with no history suddenly received hundreds of millions of dollars. One bank manager raised a question. Where is this money really coming from? Another low point came when internal warnings were ignored. Some employees wrote emails saying, "This looks suspicious." But those emails were buried. After all, the clients were wealthy, powerful, and seemed untouchable. Turning them away meant losing millions in fees. Still, the whispers grew louder. A few brave journalists began to dig. They followed the money trail through documents, leaks, and insider tips. Every step revealed more shocking details. Offshore trusts, secret property deals, diamond purchases, and art auctions paid with laundered funds. Then came the high point that changed everything. In 2015, a leak of financial records shook the empire. Suddenly, the hidden paths of money laundering were visible. Journalists across the world connected the dots. The empire was exposed for what it truly was, a vast criminal web designed to clean dirty money and make it look legitimate. Panic spread among the people behind the scheme. Some tried to flee. Others hired expensive lawyers. Banks scrambled to explain how they had allowed billions in suspicious transfers without stopping them. Governments demanded answers. Ordinary citizens were furious. They asked, how could this happen? How could our money, our future, be stolen in plain sight? Investigations began in multiple countries. FBI agents, Swiss investigators, and British regulators all stepped into the mess. One U.S. prosecutor described it as the biggest financial scandal of the century. And yet, even as the empire crumbled in the spotlight, secrets still remained. Who was at the very top? Who pulled the strings? And how much money had truly disappeared? The world was about to find out that this empire was bigger, darker, and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Because just as the first arrests were announced, another revelation hit the headlines. One of the largest global banks had been caught moving cartel drug money, too. Billions of dollars in drug profits from Mexico had been washed clean through its accounts, flowing safely into the global financial system. The empire wasn't just one scandal. It was proof of a deeper truth, that money laundering was everywhere, hiding in plain sight. And as the cameras flashed and the courts prepared for battle, one chilling question hung in the air. If these billion-dollar schemes could go unnoticed for years, what other empires were still out there, waiting to be uncovered? The stage was set for the next chapter, where the hunt for the guilty would clash with the power of wealth, corruption, and global finance. The world gasped as the second wave of headlines hit. It was no longer just one scandal. It was not just about billions stolen from a development fund. Now, the truth was even darker. Global banks themselves had been helping to wash cartel drug money. Reporters rushed to cover the story. TV anchors repeated the numbers again and again. Billions of dollars from Mexican cartels had been moved safely into the U.S. financial system, disguised as legitimate business money. For ordinary people, it was shocking. For criminals, it was brilliant. And for the banks, it was business as usual. The FBI moved fast. Raids were carried out. Offices were searched. Computers were taken. A trail of documents revealed transfers that looked like rivers of money, pouring in from suspicious sources and pouring out just as quickly into shell companies and luxury purchases. This was the high point for investigators. They felt like they were finally pulling the mask off the empire. Each day brought new revelations. Secret emails from bankers warning, "This looks dirty," ignored by managers hungry for profit. Photos of luxury yachts tied to the stolen billions. Lists of mansions, jewelry, and private jets, all bought with laundered money. But lows came quickly, too. In courtrooms, expensive lawyers stood tall, defending their clients. They argued that mistakes had been made, but no crime was intended. They said the banks had weak controls, not criminal intent. And strangely, judges listened. Instead of jail time, some banks were given fines. Huge fines, yes, but to billion-dollar corporations, they were just the cost of doing business. Ordinary people shook their heads in disbelief. If a poor man steals food, he goes to jail, one protester shouted outside a courthouse. But if the rich steal billions, they pay a fine and walk free. The anger grew. People protested in cities across the world. They wanted accountability, not excuses. They wanted to know why bankers who had helped drug cartels were not behind bars. Meanwhile, the trail of money revealed more highs. Investigators discovered art auctions where paintings worth millions were bought with laundered money. They found diamonds purchased in New York, then resold in London, the money now clean. They traced wires through Panama, the British Virgin Islands, and back to New York banks. Each path was like a puzzle piece, fitting together to reveal the vast empire. But then, another low, witnesses began to disappear. A banker who had spoken to investigators suddenly quit and left the country. A mid-level employee who had agreed to testify claimed she was threatened. Fear spread through the investigation teams. If the cartel's money was mixed with the banks, then powerful and dangerous people had reasons to keep the truth hidden. For the public, this made the story even more terrifying. It was not just about money. It was about power, corruption, and danger at the highest levels. The extreme moment came when U.S. prosecutors finally stood before the cameras. They announced the deal. One of the biggest banks in the world had admitted to allowing billions in cartel drug money to pass through. The fine was massive, almost $2 billion. But then came the shocking twist. Not a single banker went to prison. The press room erupted in questions. "How can this be justice?" one reporter shouted. "Who is really being punished here?" Prosecutors looked uncomfortable. They explained that jailing top bankers could cause financial chaos. The bank was too big to fail. The empire was simply too powerful to destroy. For ordinary people, this was the ultimate betrayal. They realized the empire wasn't just built by criminals, but protected by the very system meant to stop it. Still, the investigations were not over. The 1MDB scandal raged on in Asia and America. The cartel money case shook Mexico and Washington. Journalists continued to dig. Leaks continued to surface, and each revelation pulled more names into the spotlight. The highs: pictures of billion-dollar yachts seized by authorities, mansions in Beverly Hills raided by FBI agents, lavish parties where celebrities had unknowingly mingled with money launderers exposed in the press. The lows: endless delays in court, accused officials claiming illness to avoid trials, paperwork dragging cases for years, ordinary people watching justice move like a snail while the rich still enjoyed their wealth. And then came the breaking point. A whistleblower stepped forward, someone from inside the banking system. They had documents, secret recordings, and proof that top executives had known exactly what was happening. This was not just weak controls. It was deliberate. It was planned. The files were explosive. They showed emails where managers wrote, "This client is high risk, but the profit is too big to ignore." They revealed charts mapping how drug money flowed through accounts in New York, London, and Hong Kong. They even included warnings from employees that had been silenced. The world waited as prosecutors opened the files. Was this the moment when the empire would finally crack? Just as the whistleblower prepared to testify in court, something shocking happened. They vanished. No one knew if they had fled, been silenced, or simply disappeared into hiding. All that was left were their leaked files, published online by journalists, sparking global outrage. And with that, the empire's story reached its most dangerous point yet. Proof of guilt was out, but the key witness was gone. Would the empire finally fall, or would the powerful protect themselves once again? The cliffhanger left the world hanging in suspense.